Okie doke, we're on the top of the hour, so I'm going to hit the button. Hello and welcome to another Foreman community demo. Please note that this demo is being recorded, so if you have any trouble with the live stream, you can watch back at a later stage. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us on Freenode IRC or on the YouTube live chat, as both are being monitored. Before we begin, just a few announcements. So the third release candidate for Foreman 2.2.0 is available for testing. Please help make this release as stable as possible by helping with the test effort. Check out the release announcement on Foreman Discourse for more information. If you are testing this release candidate, please let us know which scenarios you're testing so we can avoid duplicated effort. And also on the Catello side, in the last few weeks, the first release candidate for Catello 3.17 is available for testing. All details of that release and how you can help test are also available on our Foreman Discourse. And finally, we hosted Dana Singletary of Red Hat Product Management yesterday. Dana gave an update on the Red Hat Satellite roadmap for the Foreman community. The session is available to rewatch on YouTube, and if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us. And that is all from me. So our first speaker today is Partha with Catello Pulp 3 Yum. Export Yum repos. I'll stop presenting. Thank you, Partha.
Hey, Melanie. Let me share my window. All right, I'm not sure how familiar are you guys with the export feature. So Pulp 2, we used to be, Satellite used to be able to export stuff from Pulp 2 repositories, Pulp 2 Yum repositories. With Pulp 3, we needed to rewrite some of the functionality so that it exports just as well. I'm going to just start with a simple example. And here's like I just cooked up a shell script to this. So if you look at this, there are two repositories it creates. One is Catello and one is MISC, and these are the URLs for that. It just creates a product, creates a bunch of repositories, syncs them, and finally then it creates a content view and it publishes them. So let me just do that. Let me run till there. And well, I'll come back to the last couple of steps after. So as you can see, it created this org. 2 minutes. Yeah, it's moving now. Creates all those products, setting up the repositories. It's syncing them now. So it has two repositories to sync. So let's go to the UI meanwhile. And while those tasks are running, so you should be able to see the new org created. There's a bunch of products. Still syncing. Oh. There you go. So both are done syncing there. It finally should create a content view. It creates a content view and adds a couple of repositories. and publishes, basically. So we have a, and this can show the export, run the export on. Okay. So let's go to the view. Here's version 1.0. Okay, it has 31 packages, 8 errata, 15 module streams, and it has 2 repositories. Right now, the downstream satellite export content out of this and import it in the downstream satellite. So let's get the version ID here. The version ID here is 3. Okay. So let's say I wanted to export. In the previous version, we could do hammer export, and we are working on the bindings right now. But the new functionality right now is purely out of the API. It's an API endpoint. So I'm going to reuse this command, this post command here. So the idea here is, hey, I have a destination server called downstream.example.com. Could be any name, and I want these exports to be specifically made for those destination server. And and we can import the exported content to the destination server whenever we are ready with that. So let me start with this.
Partha, would you mind, someone on the live stream is just saying it's a little bit difficult. Is it possible, I know it's in the middle of your demo, is there any way for you to enlarge the terminal font?
Oh, sure, absolutely. Give me a minute. Let's see if I can. Yeah, it's a little bit slow. There you go. So better?
Yeah, that's better. Thank you.
Sorry. Thank you. Okay. So yeah. So here's my curl command, right? That just calls this API export endpoint, gives it a destination server, right? And so let me run that. That should do the export command. So it immediately gives back it's an async command, so it's running in parallel. We can, I'm guessing the status is up right now. We'll see. So yeah, so what happens is this command runs, okay, and then we have to look at we create a record of the export somewhere in our database. It's called export histories. We keep a record of this. So let me run this guy. He will show me the path where it's exported to. There you go. So he has been exported to this directory. So the contents of that version have been exported here. So if I do an ls, there you go. There's a tar dump, and there's a tar dump, and there's this file called POC. It's like a table of contents that Pulp uses for its import process. When I demo the import functionality, the next demo, we should have more. There should be like a metadata JSON file also that you can see. But so we can try extracting this. So you see that there is it has a couple of these repository JSONs. So if I do a cat on this, we can take you. So here are the 2 repositories it exported. So these are all like metadata. I'm just showing it for demo purposes. The user is just going to see a GZ and a TOC file, just these 2 guys. And if you looked at the artifact, you should see, If I did a tree, I should, okay, sorry. Yeah, it just generates artifacts. It's not useful information, but it's all the RPMs, errata, and module streams. All of them are accounted for. I just want to show you that. Yeah. So that's pretty much it from a demo. Right now, you can export both the default content view. That is, so if at an org level, you have like products you have synced, and you want to be able to export that, you can do that. And you can also do it for a specific content view version, as I just demoed here. That's pretty much it for now.
Thanks, Partha. I'll just take a look and see have we any questions. And just so people on the live stream know as well, if sometimes there's a little bit of a delay. So if you have a question about any of the demos, you can ask them at any time throughout. For now, I don't see any other than a thank you for the enlargement. And also Brian Carney says that it's not enlarging, it's bigifying when you make your screen bigger. So thank you very much for your demo, Partha. And
I would have a question, actually, if I may.
Please.
You said that you set a destination server, so basically a name. What is it for?
What is it for? So the idea is, let's say you have a satellite and multiple downstream satellites. So we want you to be able to like keep tabs on which downstream version has which downstream satellite has what version. Like, so it's just like a table that shows you that these versions were exported to this downstream satellite.
Okay, but the export itself, I can import wherever I want to.
That's correct.
Okay, cool.
It's just there for like, it's more like a bookkeeping kind of thing than anything else.
Cool. Thank you.
Thanks, Benny, and thanks again, Partha. So up next is another Catello demo, and it's Jeremy with toggle simple content access from organization details. So when you're ready, Jeremy.
Thank you, Melanie. Let me share my screen. Let's see. Okay. So I'm here to share today some more changes to the workflow for users of simple content access. So just as a background, simple content access is a feature for Red Hat customers that allows you to access content and without worrying about subscriptions and entitlement and stuff like that. So previously we've demoed this. We in the subscriptions page here, we added this toggle switch that allows you to turn simple content access on or off right from Catello. You no longer have to go to access.redhat.com to your manifest. You can do it here right in Catello, which is much more convenient. So this time around, we've made some updates to the organizations pages that allow you to do the same sort of thing. So if I go to my organization list here, the first thing you'll see is we've added a column for simple content access. It shows you whether it's enabled or disabled for each organization. And if you go to the organization details, you'll see we've added a checkbox here, and also a reminder that toggling SCA will refresh your manifest. So the advantage of having it in the org details form here is that it's a checkbox, so the change doesn't take effect immediately. You can make other changes to the organization if you want. Like whatever other fields you want to change, you can change them. And then also you can change, you can toggle SCA for any organization, not just the one that's currently selected. So if I've made my changes, let's say I want to turn simple content access off for this organization. Once I hit submit, I'm going to see two flash notifications on the screen. The first one just confirms that my basic edits were successful, and the second one is telling me that a task started to disable simple content access for the organization. You see a link here to view progress on the tasks page, and you can do that if you want. Spend time sitting and looking at a progress bar if you really want to, but you don't have to, because we've added a notification. Yeah, there it is, in the notification bell here. Once the task is complete, it will show you right here, simple content access has been disabled for the organization. So as a bonus, that notification will also show when you toggle SCA from the subscriptions page, like I was showing you before. So those are the changes we made around the simple content access organization details. Hopefully that'll make it a bit easier for everyone. And that's all I've got.
Thank you, Jeremy. I just check, is there any questions? But I didn't see any come in. And if there's any questions on the, within the speaker group, please, or the demo group, should I say, please feel free to interject. I don't see any questions for now, Jeremy. Thank you very much. So I will move on to the next one, which is James with another Catello demo on Pulp 3 and verifying checksums for repositories.
Hey, thanks, Melanie. Yeah, I'm another member of the Catello team. And this is a feature that we worked on a little bit ago. And let me start my presentation here. So let me know when that comes up. All right. So for Pulp 3, they introduced a new support feature for repositories. It's a repair action. So what it does is it compares the computed checksums against the actual checksum of artifacts that Pulp core is storing. And if there is a mismatch, it'll attempt to recreate or re-download those artifacts. So I have a repository here for demo purposes. It's got about 32 packages. And if I go over to the machine where Pulp is actually storing the artifacts, I take a look and see that these are all the directories, and each directory contains the actual files. If I filter this, you can pick out the ones that are, say, marked for today's date. Sync this. And there's 32 packages there. Let's go ahead and delete them. And we check. So I just pulled out a bunch of the actual artifacts just by getting rid of them. So we're going to have some mismatches. I can go to the product repository view, and we've added a new action. Actually, go here. And I can go to verify content checksum, and this will kick off the repair action for this repository. And off it goes. And you can see that it identified 32 corrupted units, and it actually went through and repaired them. So let's see if we go back to our file system. We've got 32 back. And just recreated them. And that was pretty much it. So that's just a real quick demo of what you can do. And this should be enabled for just about any Pulp core content type. We just used Yum in this demo. So that was it. If there's any questions, let me know.
Sure thing, James. Thanks a million. Let me see now. Just pause for a minute. But I don't see any questions immediately, so perhaps we will move on.
All right.
Thank you, James. And our next demo then is from Samir with another Catello Pulp 3 update on configuring download concurrency. So in your own time, Samir.
All right. Thank you, Melanie. Share this. Okay, so to give some background on this, so download concurrency is basically the number of parallel connections that Pulp opens with the download server when you are syncing a repo. So the default value before pulp code 3.6 used to be 20, which was causing some issues with the number of parallel connections, and the server used to close TCP connections for example, for CentOS mirrors, etc. So pulp has set the default download concurrency to 10, starting 3.6. And in Ketelo, we have exposed this config, so users can tweak this value if they run into issues related to download concurrency. So I'll just show how you can do that. All right. So just go ahead and show the remotes that we have currently in Pulp. So here we have two repositories, one of them with download concurrency set to 10 and the other one with 15. So the default is 10, and you can tweak this value from Hammer. Okay. Yeah. So you can use this flag download concurrency, and you can set it to any values. So that is pretty much it on this. Yeah.
Thanks, Samir. Just a question came through from Dirk there, asking, should it perhaps be named verify and repair?
The download concurrency flag, you mean?
That sounds like a question for James.
Or was it? I was trying to clarify that earlier. Yeah. So maybe it's a question for James.
All right, I'll stop sharing.
All right, what was the? Can you repeat the question, Melanie?
Yeah, I wasn't really. I was trying to clarify. Oh, he wrote. He just has written now that I can see. So the question from Dirk was, should it perhaps be named verify and repair? And then he has said verify checksum and repair content as a full name, so it's obvious that it also repairs. Is that for you, James? Maybe.
Yeah, that's a pretty fair observation. I mean, that's something we can put up on the community discourse and see what people think. I mean, I'm all for it. Thanks,
James, and thanks, Dirk, and sorry for the confusion. And thank you, Samir, for your demo. And up next is Lukasz with discovery and unused IP. So first of the Foreman core demos. Thank you.
Thanks, Mel. Hey, everybody. So this is a small bug fix that we made, and I would like to talk about it because it's quite important. So back in the Foreman 2.0, which was Discovery 16.0, we have changed a behavior of discovery process a bit. When you have a discovered host, we have a one host on the page, so hopefully you can see my screen. This one is 122.80. When you click on provision and created a host or customized host via the edit host form, both workflows had the same behavior. The IP address, actually this is a DHCP lease. Usually, if you have a Pixie or DHCP Pixie-less workflow, has been kept. So when you provision the host, it would Foreman would keep the IP address and make this a reservation. So from Foreman would do a DHCP orchestration, changing these two reservation. Now, this works sometimes, but when you want to keep your lease pool different from the reservations portion of your subnet, which is a very good idea to do, it was not possible up until version 2.0 Foreman, when we shift to Discovery 16, where what it does is when you click provision, or essentially when you start provisioning, Foreman would do something you would expect maybe from the day one, but this was never implemented. It would call unused IP call. We have in the API we have unused IP, which basically either if you have a IPAMA set via DHCP, or even with the Foreman database, it will basically pick up a new next available IP address, depending on the setting of the subnet, and make a reservation on that. So this was started. This started in the version 16. However, there was a bug when the host was restarted. Since the IP address, the reservation was not yet, applied, the host was still running on the old lease. The reboot command or the kexec command, depending on the workflow, would fail. There were some cases where it would fail, and some cases where it wouldn't fail, depending on because the reservation, the lease time is usually 10 minutes by default. So if there was a time window where you could actually hit and the reboot command would not work. So basically you provision the host and nothing really happened. And this was happening randomly. Interesting thing is nobody reported that. There was one report on Redmine ticket, but finally we got to the bug and fixed it. So starting from version 16.2, which will be the discovery for Foreman 2.2, we are, as Mel mentioned, we are in the RC3 phase, and now I'm working on getting a discovery released, hopefully tomorrow. This will be fixed. So if you create a host, let me just create a host from this discovered host. If I click on interfaces, this host has at least 80, but if I really click on provision, what's going in the background is it actually manages the Foreman actually does the DHCP orchestration, picking up the next available address, which in my case is, since this is an empty subnet, I have a 0.10. So this is the change, again, in 16.0, 16.1, so that's Foreman 2.0, 2.1. This was broken, so you could actually end up with a host not being rebooted, depending on the least time window, if you hit it or not. However, this will be fixed in 16.2, and I'm thinking about backporting this into 16.1 as well, because that's an SD error we should fix. So that's all about it. It was a bug fix, so I don't expect many questions there. And I can probably move on to my next topic, which is common facts model. So just interrupt me if there are any questions in regard to this. So I have created this request for comments a while ago in May, and we actually had a link to a Google form in a blog post in May. So the thing is, Foreman was created as an inventory for Puppet originally, and so it was based around Puppet and Puppet Factor, and the way facts are stored in Foreman is very simple. And basically, the incoming facts report, which is a JSON document, is parsed, and every single name and value is actually stored in the database tables. Now, after we created plugins for other configuration management systems like Chef, Salt, Ansible, and also RHSM, Related Subscription Manager, has also a capability of sending facts. We added a flag basically in the database that which is called type or origin. And every single tool uploads its own type of facts. So users end up with, for example, if you're on a Red Hat, you probably have a subscription manager. If a Puppet agent is installed, that's Puppet facts. So these are two sets of facts, and it is possible also to run Ansible. on the same host, so that there would be 3 origins, facts origins per host. Or you can have an infrastructure, mixed infrastructure with some Debian system, Ubuntu, and Red Hats, and some of the portion, some portion of your infrastructure you can manage via Ansible. So it's a mixture of facts, and there are several problems with that. First, that is the fact names. Every single tool. Fact tool has a different naming convention. So, for example, kernel version has a different fact name for Puppet factor names it differently than Ansible, than subscription manager. Another problem is format. Of course, the contents of such a fact would be different for, let's say, factor for kernel version. Includes the release portion of the fact, and Ansible does not. And then also, some facts are not stable. This is term which I came up with, meaning that, for example, factor reports uptime as a number of seconds since boot, which is a nice, perhaps for humans. We like to read it that way. However, for computers, this is not the best storage format, because every fact upload, we need to update the boot time, because it changes every single upload, since it's a number of seconds. So ideally, for storage efficiency and for for computer, it would be very much better to basically have to store it differently. For example, boot UTC timestamp of the boot, and then not seconds since boot. And finally, there is one important aspect, and that's how many facts we actually need to store, because up until now, Foreman facts endpoint stores everything, basically. So if you have hosts with many, let's say, bridge interfaces, network interfaces, which, for example, if you're running containers, these hosts can report a lot, like hundreds or thousands randomly named interfaces, and this puts unnecessary stress on our database. We have implemented over the time few settings, which you can block some facts by name. But I was thinking, and this is the part of the RFC, to create some kind of a common set of facts. I'm thinking, and the reason why I'm presenting this to you is I would like to find a reasonable set of facts which we would select from all the sources, from all the facts, things like factor, Ansible, or HSM. We would convert them into some common format. For example, one of the facts could be kernel version, and we would make sure that kernel version is in particular format, let's say minor, major version, or dash some kind of a release number, and that's it. This would be the same for all the fact sources. We would ensure these facts are stable. Example would be boot time, things like that. And having all of that, this would actually enable Foreman users to search across the whole infrastructure for the same facts. For example, I'm searching for a host with 16 cores. These today, although we currently we store some important facts or aspects about the hosts in special fields, we could actually drop that, or we could actually use the common facts to keep this ability for a variety of facts which we would pick. Today, what you need to do if you want to search for some particular facts is a query that needs to be unique for every single fact source. So I hope it makes sense. So what I would like to encourage you is search for the common facts model in our discourse, or there's a blog post, or we will be putting the link again on our Twitter, hopefully today. And there is a simple form, Google form, where we would like to know about which facts you would like to see in this common facts model, or you can also provide some feedback either here via, or that there is no comment field, so just go ahead and respond to the common facts fact model thread. What you think, because naturally, these common facts would include things like number of CPUs, cores, memory. These are kind of pretty obvious, but I would like to know that if there are some less obvious facts you would really need to search for. And the idea is to store all the facts alongside the common facts as in a blob. So even if a field or fact would not be included in the common set of facts, we would still store all the facts from all the sources in a blob, so they would be available. But this would not be searchable in a way that you are used to today. This would be only available if you ask explicitly for a particular host that would be rendered. So that's the idea. Please respond, and so we have a lot of opinions, a lot of data we can work with. Are there any comments or questions in regard to either facts or discovery?
Not so far, Lukasz, on any of the channels. But one thing I will say is that once we finish up today, I will add a link to the RFC and to the questionnaire into the YouTube video description, as well as tweeting it out and just making it available for everyone. So no doubt there was a lot of information there. So I think it would be good if people take the time to read over that as well and to complete the survey. So thanks very much, Lukasz. And up next, yeah, we don't have any questions, I don't think. So up next is Evgeny, who is going to give us an update on Foreman Ansible modules, what's new and what we have to look forward to. So welcome, Evgeny.
Hi. Let's see if that works. If not, I don't have really much to share anyways. So I wanted to talk with you a bit about Foreman Ansible modules, what we achieved in the last, I don't know, months, years, a lot. So I guess mostly everybody heard that we released a version 1.0 sometime back with a restructure of the modules, a bit slimmer naming and everything. But since 1.0, we also managed to release a 1.1 and 1.2 release, which contains largely fixes and smaller features. And I would like to talk with you about two features that we introduced in the 1.2 release that are rather important, I think. Both are around the host module that got quite a lot of love in the past, because in the 1.0 release, the host module was there and you could create hosts, but especially when it came to deploying hosts on compute resources like OpenStack or Overt or ESX, there were quite a lot of bugs or issues. One of the issues was that, for example, on ESX, you need to provide an extra flag to actually boot the machine after creating it. It's rather inconvenient for the user, I guess, but that's how the API works, and we need to work with it. But the modules didn't allow you to provide any parameters towards the compute resource API. So in 1.2, we have introduced a parameter to the host module that's called compute attributes. And it supports every attribute that the compute resource has. And if you go to the documentation of the module, you will see that there are two quite common examples, I'd say. The first example is to have a host deployed with a specific amount of RAM and CPUs, So we choose like, I don't know, 4 gigs of RAM and 2 CPUs. It doesn't matter, but you get the syntax from it. And the second one is a specific ESX example that I was talking about. You need to pass start equals 1. If you don't, the machine won't boot. And even worse, the whole deployment will fail, because if the machine doesn't boot, Foreman doesn't have the possibility to configure it, and the whole process ends in an error after some timeout. I can't remember the timeout, but at some point it will just error out. So this was like, it's a one-line fix to the module code, but it's helped quite a lot of users to get their machines up and booting on ESXi. And another thing that after we managed to have this working, users said, cool, I can boot my machine now, but for some reason the configuration that I put in Foreman doesn't end up in the deployed machine. And this was around the parameters that you can set in Foreman. So you can, essentially, if you have anything that is about configuration, like Puppet or Ansible, you can configure it on a hierarchical basis, and the lowest part is the host. So you could say, I don't know, I want my machines all to use ntp.org as a time server, but this one specific machine I want to have a different time server for. And you would do that in a parameter. And if you would create a host, again, with the host module before 1.2, we would create the parameter entry after we created the host. So the host would be already booting and getting the information from Foreman, and just after that, we would set the fact that it's supposed to use a different NTP server. So at deployment time, the parameter wasn't set, and you would end up with the wrong configuration. This is now fixed, and when we are creating a machine, it all getting all the parameters set in one call, so you don't miss any data. So this is what happened up until now. But obviously, I think 1.2 was released 2 weeks ago or so, and we are keeping ourselves busy, and our users are keeping us busy because they're testing the modules and finding cases where stuff isn't working right or have feature requests. And one feature request was to be able to inject credentials for accessing the Foreman, not by putting them into the playbook. So before that, you had, if you would call a module, you would say, I'm calling the Foreman host module, and one parameter is server URL saying foreman.example.com, my username is admin, and my password is change me. And while you could do like nice tricks with YAML anchors and stuff like this to not duplicate it on every call, you still would have it in some way in the playbook. And one feature of Ansible is you can fall back such parameters to environment variables. We introduced that in a recent PR, which should be out as a release 1.3 then, I think sometimes next week or the week after, so rather soon. And now you can set environment variables for the URL, for the username, for the password, and also whether you want or do not want to check the TLS certificate. Of course you want, but in case you don't, there's a way to disable it. Another thing that we implemented very recently was a fix for a bug where people who are using the modules to manage content on a Catalog installation, they said, look, we can create content views, we can manage content views, but there is no way to remove an existing content view, or rather there is, but it will error out. So, and this was fixed, I think, like 3 days ago or so. Again, 3 lines of change, but quite big user impact, because now you can remove content views and keep your installation tidy if you want to. And keeping installation tidy is also what is on the outlook for the future. Is there's a draft PR open right now for cleaning up content view versions. If everybody has managed a Catalog installation or satellite for more than a week, you realize at some point that every time you publish something, you're also keeping the old version of the content view around for rollback reasons, which is great. But after a time, you are accumulating way too many versions. And you don't really need any of them at some point, because you're essentially grown out of them, but they're still on disk. You can delete them one by one in the UI, which is horrible. And for that, back in my consulting days, I've written a tool called Catalog CV Manager that supported cleaning out old CV versions. It was like 2015, 2016 or so. And the tool is still around, still being used by users, but it's not being kept up to date too well. And I decided that having this cleanup feature as Ansible playbook would be a great idea. So there's a PR open for Ansible role, actually, not a playbook, sorry, that is using 2 modules, like the resource info module that is an essential get me information about a resource, in this case, content views and content view versions, and then it's processing them using some Ansible tasks, and then using the content view version module to remove them. And the idea is that you're taking that role, you're saying, I want to keep a maximum of 5 unpublished versions, and you run it. And it will clean up your content views by only keeping those versions that are either in use, because those cannot be deleted anyways, and 5 unpublished ones. So you can either jump back to those, or what's a more idea here is quite often you have created a version, but you haven't published it yet to any environment, because you're in the middle of something, so you don't want to delete that, right? So there is a safeguard to keep a few versions, but then keeping the whole installation tidy by deleting all those old versions. So yeah, that's coming not in the next 1 or 2 weeks, I guess, because there's a bit of discussion around this, how we can nicely integrate it and also make it best user approachable. So please go to the GitHub. I can drop the link later in the description also, and discuss with us if you want to keep your installation steady. And with that, thank you.
That was great, Evgeny. Thank you very much. I'm just going to check. I didn't see any questions come in, but perhaps people are thinking about it. And you're still, oh no, you just finished talking on the live stream, so that's always a good sign. And no, I don't see any questions so far. So let me see who is left. So our final demos are from Dominic. There are 2 demos, one around the fix of the host creation form for MAC addresses, and another one about allowing method IDs from active records for reports. So Dominic, when you are ready.
Yes, and thank you. So I will present my screen. So can anybody see my screen?
Yeah, looks good.
Okay, great. So the first one first demo is about just little bug fix. And that means that when I create the host, that's what's for Foreman working, there was a bug. Then when I create the hosts that are working on bare metal, that's all deployed on bare metal, I can look to the interfaces and I see that the MAC address of the interface is ready to fill. So I can fill the MAC address of the host that I'm trying to create in the Foreman. And this MAC address should be for interface what is used for connect to the Foreman. However, when I used this form for some kind of virtualization hosts, this field was I can also fill the MAC address of the host, but that's a mistake because almost every virtualization platform like libvirt, ovirt, OpenStack, and so on, they assigned own MAC address for these interfaces. So after that, when I fill the MAC address, this MAC address was override with MAC address from virtualization platform. So we are fixed that, and we are not able to write the MAC address for the interface. That's the first one. And the second one is about templates. And there are templates for everything almost. And these has own methods. And we are decided to allow the method IDs for active record, because in some reports it will be useful to use to get the IDs of objects that we are get from active record. What is active record? It's a library that is used to communicate with database, and in database we have the object. We are saving the objects, and these objects are represented in table in one row, and every object is identified by ID. And this ID is small number that is used for identification, as I said. And sometimes when we have some collections, that means when we have some connection between objects, like I have prepared some little example. When you have some host group, these host groups has some hosts, and we would like to have some IDs from hosts. We can do that by simple iterating over the collection and getting ID, but it's very slow. And in one big chunk of hosts, it could be really slow, and it's slow down the Foreman. So we decided to use the internal method of active record called IDs that returns the array of IDs of these hosts, and then we can use this IDs, for example, in Hammer to get some information about these hosts. And that's all from me.
Thank you, Dominic. I don't see any questions so far. So if anybody is watching and has a question after we finish up, or if there's anybody rewatching this page, feel free to write to us on freenode.irc on the Foreman discourse, or if you want, you can just simply drop a comment into the YouTube video. We go in every few days and take a look at those, so you will get an answer here as well. So first of all, thank you very much to all our speakers. Thank you for those on the live stream that helped us improve the demo and also ask questions. And again, if you have any questions or feedback, just feel free to reach out to us, and we see you again soon. Thank you.